All right, so you'll see assignment 8 available on Canvas for you all. This will be due next week. Small camper trailer in Rhino. So you're going to take your sketches that you've developed tonight and some of those ideas, you're going to move it forward. You're going to carry it forward over the next few weeks. We're going to step into doing some Rhino by next week. So you're going to 3D model your small camper trailer in Rhino to the best of your abilities. Go back and refer to any of those old screen recordings that I've done on any Rhino previously for some reminders and tips. Utilize your research and your sketches from your in-class assignment to help you make crucial decisions about your design. You do not need to 3D model every steel stud, all right? I'm going to say that one more time. You do not need to model every single stud in Rhino, okay? If anything, I'd rather you not, for now. We can refine some of those things later on, but with your level of Rhino skills at the moment, just keeping it pretty broad for now is much better than me having you model every single stud now. But what we're going to do is I want you to consider anything that's a vertical panel as a FrameCAD wall. Anything that's a horizontal or sloping panel, that's going to be a floor or a roof. Okay, just keep those two terms in mind as you're modeling the stuff in Rhino, because that's going to carry over into Detailer. When we start to pick our frame types, we're going to either go with a wall or a floor. Okay, that's just how it works in Detailer. For your reference, our FrameCAD section, right, the actual steel stud, the profile of our steel stud that comes out of our machine here is 3 5/8 inch by 1 5/8 inch. Okay, it's pretty close to a 2x4 stud. All right, a wood 2x4 stud is 3.5 by 1.5 inches. Okay, so again, I don't want you fully modeling every single stud. I don't want you to draw that little section and extrude it and show me where every single stud goes. That's getting ahead of yourself. We're still, even though we're in Rhino, we're still sketching things, right? We're getting it to the next level. We're sketching to scale now, 1-to-1 scale. All right, and as always, name your files properly and screenshot with high quality, JPEGs or PNGs. Please do not submit your Rhino file to me. I'm not going to open it. Just screenshot it. I just want to see an image, and it'll be a progress check. Right? We'll continue on with these assignments for the next couple of weeks. You'll develop your camper trailer further and further. For now, I'm going to show you, this is my Rhino file of that camper trailer that we had previously made. Okay. Now I am showing more detail than I want you to show at this point. So don't get scared. This is not what I'm expecting out of you. But this is a little clipping plane. You can type in clipping plane to make one. So if I go back to my front elevation, I'll type in clipping plane, draw a rectangle from one corner to another, go to my perspective view, figure out where I put that clipping plane. It is somewhere here. And make sure that under properties, the perspective view is checked. And now it'll allow me to slice through my 3D model. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little tour of the inside of my Rhino model. This piece down below is representative of a queen size bed. I've got some ideas for the door openings here as well. Here's some ideas for cabinetry. You can see there's multiple levels, right? In the last video I talked about this being at about 36 inches in height. So when you're standing outside of your trailer, this is your kitchen countertop. You might have a sink embedded into it. You might have your propane grill hooked up there. You got your little cabinetry up here for extra storage. So I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to open up a new file, a new Rhino file. I'm going to go to File, New. I'm not going to save this project. When you start with a new Rhino file, just consider, is this thing that you're going to 3D model, is it bigger than a truck or is it smaller than a truck? It's smaller than a truck. So I'm going to go with small objects. And then next I just have to choose my units. I recommend inches, feet, and inches. So basically, the units that you're going to type in on your numeric pad, if you say 12, it will equal 12 inches. Okay. If I say 36, it will equal 36 inches. It won't equal 36 feet, it'll equal 36 inches. And then the feet inches part is the one that always confuses everyone, but that's really just what it's going to display down below here as you're moving around and measuring things. It'll show you things in feet and inches, which is really helpful here in America. We use imperial units. So inches, feet, and inches, small objects. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. So I've got all 4 of my viewports. One thing I highly recommend you do is utilize your layers. This is your layer panel right here. It comes with 6 layers by default. Utilize them. Separate maybe your vertical walls from your horizontal walls. Maybe separate your 2D stuff from your 3D stuff. It's helpful to keep those things organized. I'm going to start off by going to Harbor Freight's website. I'm going to pick this Hallmaster 2,000 pound capacity 5-foot by 10-foot custom modular utility trailer. This has got a nice image of the dimensions. If you want to, you can bring this image into Rhino, right? If it lets you, save it, which I probably won't. No, it's going to make me save it as a web page, so I'm not going to do that. What you could do is screenshot it. So I'm going to see if I can screenshot while I'm screen recording. I cannot. Let's use the snipping tool. You guys should already know the snipping tool. So I'm going to grab this, and I'll grab it from here to there, so it's nice and tight. I'm going to do File, Save As. I'm just going to put mine on the desktop, but definitely keep it all organized. Actually, I already made a folder for it here in this class, camper trailer. So this is going to be trailer dimensions. I'm going to save it as a PNG. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to go back to Rhino, close all that, go back to Rhino. If you want to bring that image in, the command is picture. I'm going to make the screen a little bit smaller for this projector screen. Okay, so here I am in top view. Type in picture. Find your picture. Workshop, camper trailer, trailer dimensions. And the way you bring it in is you define 2 corners of the rectangle of that image. So I'm just going to click here, and then I'll click there. Not super concerned about the scale yet. So here it is. This is my image. It's currently on the default layer, right? Because that default layer is already checked. I'm going to move it to the layer 1 layer by right-clicking, change object layer. Now if I use this little light bulb, it'll turn on and off. It's going to really help me out because I'm going to draw on top of this thing, but I don't always want this image here. All right, so now that I brought this in, I am going to be concerned about scaling. So now I'm going to zoom in, and I'm just going to roughly scale this to size. I have it selected, so you just left-click it to select it, type in scale. For your base point, go ahead and pick any one of these dimensions in the drawing. I'm going to click right here for my base point. And I have ortho on right now, which is helping me keep my lines super duper straight. And I'm not able to snap to any of these dimensions here because this is just a PNG image. But I'm going to eyeball where the 60-inch dimension ends. And we're going to click there. And now it's asking for a second reference point, and if you move your cursor up and down, this will either shrink or grow. And I'm just going to type in 60 and hit enter. Okay, so what that does is it scales that image so that way from this base point to this first reference point, I'm saying that length I want that to equal 60 inches. So that's what that second reference point does. When I type in 60 and hit enter, it makes that 60 inches. So I can test that theory out. If I type in polyline or PL, just type in polyline. If I start my polyline roughly right here and just kind of drag my cursor down, down in the bottom left right here, just look at this little window right here is displaying your units. As I move towards the end of that line, you can see it says 4 foot 11 3/4. So it's successfully been scaled to roughly the right size. Okay, so I'm going to hit escape a couple times. All right, I'm going to change the name of layer 1 to image, just to remind myself that's an image. I can also lower the opacity of this image, so that way as I draw my Rhino curves on top of it, there'll be some translucency. Select that picture, go to properties over here on the right. This is your property panel. Find your little, texture mapping. No, sorry, material. So under properties, material, right here under transparency, you can change the object transparency to something like 50%, and you can see the grid, the image now, right? So as I start to draw my curves, those lines draw will be a little bit more prominent because I'm basically drawing on trace paper almost. Okay, so I'll leave like 55%. You can change it to whatever opacity you feel like, as long as you can read some of those numbers. So I'll leave it at about 50%. I'm gonna go up here, lock layer. Image layer, I'm locking it. Click on that little lock, and no matter what I do now, I can't ever select that image again, which is nice, right? So there's a tendency to accidentally delete it, or size it up, or group it with something else that you didn't want to be grouped with. So now that the entire layer is locked, I can come and draw some of these rough dimensions. And I'm going to start off with, just since I'm in the top view, I'm going to start off with the plan drawing, right? I'm going to grab I can either do a polyline or rectangle. When I use rectangle, I like to use the 3-point rectangle. So I'm going to click on 3-point rectangle. And I'm going to find basically this, one of our corners of the actual box trailer itself. And that'll be my first point. I'm going to move my cursor up. Again, I have ortho on, so that's going to keep me going and moving in straight left and right, up and down directions. I'm going to type in 60 and hit enter. And now I'm going to click, right? I've designated that I want to make a rectangle that's 60 inches wide. I need to decide which direction that rectangle goes in. So as long as this little white tail that's following my cursor is up above my polyline, that's good. So just click there. And now it's asking for this length, right? And if I move my cursor left and right, you can see that line moving, right? I'm in the default layer, right? You can see it because I've got default checked. Whenever you have that layer checked and you start to draw things on it, it will take on the color of that layer's color, okay? So even now, if I just change it from black and I choose magenta, hit OK, you'll see now my line turns magenta, and I could see a little bit better on top of my drawing. Now this length is going to be 123.25. So with my cursor off to the far right, I'm going to type in 123.25 and hit enter. And I have to choose my rectangle, basically choose the direction that I want that 123.25 to go in. And you'll see there's a little white tail that follows your cursor around. Just make sure you're clicking anywhere towards the right of that rectangle that you're making. And click once, and voila. You have a 3-point rectangle, 60 inches by 123.25. You can turn off my image layer, clicking that little light bulb there, and there it is. There's my little, that's the dimensions of the width and length of that trailer. Okay. Now with that kind of information, I can come in and start to 2D or 3D model certain aspects of my design, right? We're looking at it in plan view, so I'm looking straight down at it. So I might use another rectangle command to draw the overall size of a bed, right? Does anybody know what size bed that they want to use? What bed sizes are you guys thinking about using? Queen, king, California king, twin XL, bunk bed? Yeah. So what size are you choosing, John? Say it again. Oh, okay. Well, you're doing a whole RV, so not sure that's. So, anybody doing a full-size mattress? Yeah. All right. What's the size of a full-size mattress?
54 inches width by 80.
By 80? Okay. So if I type in 54, hit enter. Make sure this line is going up and down. Click. And that's 80 inches this way. Click. There you go. There's my bed. Where do I want my bed? Somewhere in the middle, I guess. Towards the back, towards the front. All right. So this is 78, you said? Edwin? I mean width. This was a 48, 54. Okay, 54. So if I actually move this so that way it lines up with this edge, I can measure how much extra space I have now that I've put in this huge bed, right? I can type in D or just type in distance and you can start to measure things. I'm going to measure from this end point all the way to here, and that leaves me with 6 inches. Now, is that going to be enough room with my frame CAD walls? No. So I'm going to have to downsize for my design. Maybe you're choosing a wider trailer, but this is the time when you start to input real dimensions to make sure that these things fit, right? We can draw whatever we want, right? But unless we're very well practiced and disciplined in drawing to scale, our imaginations will just escape us, right? We'll just we could fit 5 beds in our trailers in our sketchbooks, but can we really? Probably not. So I know that my walls are basically 3 5/8 inch wide or thick, right? Just this frame CAD structure alone. So I'm going to come back in here. There's a couple ways you can do this, but the first way I'm going to do it is I'm going to explode and select this large rectangle. I'm going to explode it. And what that does is it puts it into 4 separate lines instead of one joined curve. From there, I can actually select one of those, offset 3-5/8, 3 5/8. I can select this one here too, and offset it upwards 3 5/8, right? So if I type in dim, this is my dimension command. It tells me that after I've offset 3 5/8 on either side, I'm getting a measurement of 4 foot 4 3/4, or 52 3/4. So I'm going to have to downsize. Maybe I think a double is the same size, so probably going to have to go with a twin for my little trailer. So twin mattress. These mattress sizes are very typical. Okay, so I would recommend that you not find some custom-sized mattress. So here's a nice little image. So I could do 53 inches for a full. Nope. So let's do the twin XL is a little bit longer than a twin. So I'm not sure that I have that kind of room, but we can try. So let's do a twin XL, 38 by 80. I'm going to go ahead and delete this rectangle. I'm going to type in rectangle. I'm going to do 3-point rectangle. I'm going to do it 38 inches by 78. by 80 inches. All right, that looks like it'll fit with room. So that's nice. Maybe it's off to one side and I have a door right there. Maybe I'm just sitting on my mattress with my feet dangling through the door and I'm watching the sunrise. So that'll be nice. Okay. Let's look at, what kind of storage capacity might we want? If I was going to do a kitchenette in the back over here, how deep do I need that to be? Right? So if I do offset, right, maybe this back line here, maybe I'm offsetting it 24 inches, right? That's a pretty typical counter base cabinet depth in your kitchen, 24 inches. So if I take this line here, offset it this way, 24, okay? So that's starting to define where my bed can go. Yes?
So I just have a question. So we're not supposed to try to make it, like right now I understand you're just doing the layout and everything, but are we trying to make like an actual model? Like, you know what I mean? Like I know you're saying it doesn't have to be perfect. I understand you're doing like I'm trying to do like curved edges and all that. Like do I have to do all that extra stuff? Or?
Your limitations to this project are that we're going to make it using FrameCAD.
Okay, so I don't want curved edges.
Unless you can figure out a way to use curved edges.
Okay, no, I understand.
Yeah, yeah.
I see what you're doing there.
Yeah,
I
it's
was going a different route.
for sure, for sure.
This way is easier. Okay.
This way is easier, and I highly recommend you keep your build small, right? Because going with the big RV is great, but just to get some practice and find some success week to week, keep it nice and nuclear, right? Let's pretend this is just a weekender trailer, right? I'm only going to use it one weekend, maybe twice a year if I'm lucky, right? We're all hustling and bustling here in this suburban environment. Maybe we're not going to get out to Joshua Tree every single weekend. Maybe we love it and we are going to go there every single weekend, right? Maybe you do need an RV. Yes?
I mean, he can still use FrameCAD to frame it, and then because the sheeting material is still like your sheeting
detail it
you can
afterward.
bend it.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. Yes. FrameCAD is just going to be representative of the structural component of this box that is the camper trailer. How you adorn it on the outside, on the inside, that's completely up to your imagination. If you could figure out some sort of way of curving, it's been done, right? If you look up any examples online where it's done in wood, if it can be done in wood, it can possibly be done in steel. Here is one thing too. I forget what it's called, but Simpson Strong Tie makes a curved track, right? Now, I've never actually incorporated one, but let's see if I can find it. Oh, yeah, that's about it. Now, some of these cold form steel machines can produce this. Not all can, but take a look up here, guys. Ready Track Framing. Look at that specialty little thing. That is like steel, and it's curving. Okay, so maybe you're purchasing some of these, but the radius to which you use, it's not going to be sharp, right? You're not going to do a really teeny tiny little curve. It's going to be nice and big and smooth, right? So it's possible. I don't want to deter you from imagining, your ideal trailer, but yeah, you have a Jeep, exactly. So the reason why the camper trailer that we designed, wasn't very curvy was it was our first go around using FrameCAD to make this thing, and that's why we at least chamfered, and put in some angles in there, and just for a little less wind resistance and stuff. So, yeah, there's many ways to get this done. So. I know, ours kind of looks like a Cybertruck. Yes. All right. So, I'm back here in Rhino, and I'm starting to think of these ideas, and maybe it's still kind of hard to imagine the full thing, right? Maybe it's time to get into 3D, right? It'll be up to you how you want to go about this. You can do this all in as 2D drawings. Eventually we're going to get to a 3D model, but in this step you can either be in 2D or 3D. It's up to you, whatever you feel strongest in. If just drawing lines will do for you, that's fine with me as well. But I'm going to go to a new layer. I'm going to start to think about the back kitchenette area for now, right? I know that I want to have a little cabinet in there, so if I just take a box, and like I said, with the rectangles, I like to use a 3-point rectangle. I also like to use 3-point boxes. They're just a little bit easier for me. So I'm going to do a 3-point box. All right, I'm going to use this little, 2D drawing that I've got set up, right? It's the full maximum capacity of the trailer itself. It's also got 3 5/8 inch walls on 2 of the sides. So maybe I go to the interior dimensions here, and this one here for my second point. For my third point, maybe I want to do 24 inches. Hit enter, click once, right? How tall do I want to make that? I might need to refer to my spec sheet of what the trailer dimensions are, so that way I can get the countertop to be at my 36-inch level, right? For now, I'm going to put it at about, let's put it at 14 inches, okay? So there's my cabinet. Let's also model the frame as if we're going to put some subflooring down, just a big sheet of plywood or maybe a couple of pieces of plywood. So let's go to, let's call this layer 2. Let's give it a name, call it cabinetry. Let's go to layer number 3, put that check mark on layer number 3. This will be subfloor, so I'm going to find like some wood looking color. I'm going to do a 3-point box from here to there. That's my 60 inches, all the way to over here to my 123.25. And then let's do like 1 inch of just plywood. Okay, so got this sitting on plywood now. Right, now I can start to see it coming to life.
Did you go negative on 3?
I did.
Okay.
I did. Good catch. And yeah, so the 1 inch plywood that I have here, if I go to shaded mode in all 4 of my viewports, that plywood is sitting below, basically in the negative Z direction. It's sitting below this Z0 value. So it's sitting beneath my 2D drawing, yes. And if it hadn't appeared that way, I would have just moved it down 1 inch to make sure that it's below my drawing. But yes, good catch. All right, let's use another layer. Let's call that layer subflooring. Okay, I'm going to go to my layer 4, and we'll call this walls. And instead of green, let's pick something a little bluish grayish. Let's do another 3-point box. And I'm going to do my box from here to there, which is 3 5/8, all the way down the length of my subfloor. And now I want to determine the height of my little camper trailer, the height of my box. What is that? Right? And you'll need to sketch that kind of stuff out and figure out, well, am I standing up in this thing? If you're standing in this thing, it's going to get really tall, right? Not going to flow well with the wind. If it's just meant for you to park it somewhere at a campsite and you just lay down in it, it could be lower than that, right? I know a few of you were thinking about doing like a pop-up, like an expandable pop-up section on the roof of your camper trailer. If you think about like a old Volkswagen bus, some of those old ones have been retrofitted with camper details like a VW bus. Oops. Pop up. Kind of like these guys. That's kind of cool, you know. Which just means that with FrameCAD, you would just create a big opening on what's your roof or your ceiling or your floor. That way you can purchase this product, mount it in there, and it just pops right up, gives you that standing height, but it collapses back down when you're driving. So that's a suitable option. So for the sake of this model, let's just say I'm going to make it 4.5 feet. So 48 plus 6, 54 inches. Okay. There's one wall. Right. Before I copy this over, I might want to figure out the shape of this wall a little bit, right? It's a little just too boxy, right? So let's try another view. Let's go to my front view, maybe. Let's go to ghosted mode so I can see through it a little bit, right? So if I draw a polyline and just kind of use this box that I've drawn to sort of sketch some ideas of, you know, where this thing could taper. Maybe I just draw a 45-degree line right there, or turn off ortho and do something a little bit more drastic, maybe a little more Cybertruck looking. Let's put it somewhere about there. And then I'm gonna keep going with this polyline. I'm gonna utilize this basic rectangular wall that I've drawn and draw upon it. And at this moment, I'm still kind of sketching. So maybe I want to do it to about here. Maybe I'm going to connect it to this edge over here. And I'll come straight down, go straight over here, and then close it up by clicking on that first point that I had already clicked. Okay, so now let's go to our perspective view. I'm going to delete this box that I've drawn, and what you see is you'll be left over with this new shape that you've drawn. I must advise you, if you utilize any object snapping and any 3D objects while you are making a 2D object like a polyline, be super careful. Make sure you're selecting the right O-snaps, right? The right ends, the right near points, because it's very easy to draw that in front view, and actually when you get to perspective view, you have like points way over there in the background, you have points up in the front, you have like this three-dimensional 2D curve, okay? And it looks like kind of like this, right? If you've ever had that situation happen to you, where you get something like that, but in this view it looks perfectly fine, right? You're like, huh, why does it look so perfect here? And then I come to perspective view and it's looking like that. The reason why that happens is because sometimes when you're snapping to certain objects or not snapping to certain objects, you don't realize it, but you're snapping to something that's really far away in your 3D model. And if you're not actually snapping to anything and you're in the front view, if I just drew a line here in this front viewport, right, let's make a nice funny curvy line. If I draw a funny curvy line like this here in this viewport, go back to my perspective view, you can see where that line is drawn. It's drawn where the x-axis is equal to 0, or y-axis is equal to 0. Yeah, it's where the x-axis is, right? So notice the difference of where all these points line up. So I'm going to draw this whole polyline again with a little bit more emphasis on snapping and not snapping to certain things. So let's redo all this. I'm going to draw this polyline, and I'll start down here at the bottom. I'll go up above here, and check out what happens in this perspective viewport. Okay, I'll zoom in a little bit more. when I'm snapping in the front viewport to something like near or end, when I'm snapping to this actual 3D box that I've made, look at where I'm snapping in perspective view, right? I am snapping to the edge of that box. But if I move away from that box and I make a click here in the front view where I'm not touching anything, I'm not snapping to anything, look where that line gets drawn in perspective. Okay? You get this three-dimensional thing. Just be very aware of where you're clicking. It does make a difference. So I'm going to hit undo a few times. I'm going to just go back to just the front viewport. I'm going to snap to my front. I'm going to delete this box. I'm going to take this shape. I'm going to extrude it, extrude curve. I'm going to extrude it up until this line here, or 3 5/8 inch deep. Okay, and voila, I've got a wall. Okay. So I just kind of free-formed that whole entire wall. I just made some guesses, made it look kind of cool. The way to figure out exactly some of those dimensions is by sketching this out to scale, preferably, and figuring out where things need to be. If you were slicing through this camper trailer, if I have cabinetry in the back, if I have a bed here, if I have walls here and there, you know, that'll start to determine the overall shape of this thing. And if you can sketch it out and then come to Rhino and just emulate that, you'll get something like that. Okay. From here, I can take this, copy it, and I'll copy it from this endpoint, move it to the other side of the plywood. Okay. I'm going to do another 3-point box. Let's do a 3-point box. And this one I'm going to go from this end to this end. I'm going to go to the right a distance of 3 5/8. Thickness of my steel. Hold shift. I'm going to click once. And then I'm going to come to this shorter edge right there. Now, the camper trailer we made did not have a back wall over here. Instead, it had a wall bracing component that was here. 3 5/8. And then it came down about, let's do something like that for now. I'm just sketching. I'm just sketching in 3D at this point. Okay. And with that, that's about all the steel, all the frame cat steel that we used, essentially. Right? The rest was just wrapped with aluminum and a little bit of plywood and some ox-IS and some interior sheathing. But even just that alone is a great start to before you get into FrameCAD Detailer. FrameCAD Detailer is not a friendly place for you to be in to make these design decisions. Rhino's great. It's one option. SketchUp is another great option. Revit's an okay option. Okay, but I highly recommend Rhino because we could do some more things with Rhino as well. We can make a small scaled version of this. We can 3D print this little guy and laser cut a little person next to it and see how it works. Okay, so let these skills help you for the next assignment. I'm not looking for a fully completed 3D model with all the bells and whistles. Think about where your doors are going to go. Think about where your skylight's going to go. You know, box everything out. Don't worry about putting too much detail in this stuff. Find the overall size of a solar panel if you're going to be using a solar panel. You know, what's its thickness? What's its width? What's its length? Just draw it as a box. Use different layers, different colors of your layers so we can distinguish between the various things. Bring your picture in, put it on a layer. You could already start to imagine it now with this picture here, right? There it is. There's my camper trailer. We can worry about wrapping it with finishes and all those other things later on, but for now, this will be good. All right, any questions? All righty.